Hey guys, Desert Garden Prepper here. Last night when I was finishing up the first batch of compost tea in the new compost tea brewer, the wind started whipping up pretty hard, and this dog water house, I call it, got its final coffin nail. Let me show you what happened over here. So this is a project I did last year, and most of it worked pretty well. And I'll try to show you the details with this El Cheapo tent here. Finally bit the dust. I mean, I knew it was coming. I knew this thing was kind of on its last leg. But, last night's 40 to 50 mile an hour winds was the last straw for this thing, so we've got to go ahead and replace it. I have a tent I found at a yard sale last week for $5. It didn't have a rainfly, but it's actually looks quite a bit sturdier. There's some design improvements for sure. The purpose of this thing is to protect the dog water circulator that I built last year, and give you a quick view of that. Pull that out here. Here's another shot of this water bowl working in production mode here. You can kind of get a little bit of an idea of what I'm doing here. So let's see if I can show you a few details about how I put this circulating dog water bowl together. Here on the top we have half-inch PVC. It's all half-inch PVC construction here. Just a couple of half-inch PVC elbows, a T, a couple little short pieces here, a longer piece coming down to the pond pump at the bottom. What I actually did is built this in 3 layers. This top layer here is to, really the only usable area of water. The rest below obviously acts as a reservoir and creates additional water in the bowl, but the only usable part for the dogs here is about the top. I'd say about 2 gallons in the top. So what I have here is 3 buckets total to make this bucket. The bottom bucket hasn't been modified at all. It's in its original form, except for removing the handles here on all of this. Of the top system here, there's 2 buckets, and the reason being, once again, is I wanted a frame on the bottom here to attach the pond pump to, and then a void in the middle here to have the bird bath heater kind of floating in this void here, so that it wouldn't really be directly against the bottom or the top or anything. So this, whenever I clean it, I just pop this open, empty out the water, pop the filter off here, rinse this all out, rinse everything out around here, obviously, pop it back together, and it's ready to go. This pond pump came from Harbor Freight Tools, and I got to tell you, of all the things I've ever bought from Harbor Freight Tools, I'm pretty impressed with this item. I believe it was on sale for maybe $8 or $10, and this thing has been plugged into this timer, and it runs 365 days a year, sunrise to sunset, and it's been flawless. It's still working fine. Now this bird bath heater, on the other hand, also has been just fabulous the way it's worked out. But I just plug this in, in the fall when it starts getting cold and we start getting threats of freezing temperatures, and then unplug it in the spring when it warms up a bit. I believe I bought this at Ace True Value Hardware. It was a little tricky to find. I think they're out there on the internet or whatnot, but this thing has worked fabulously too for what I wanted it to do, which is to keep the water from freezing. So this bowl can run, you know, snow, sleet, rain, all the cold weather all through winter, and it's never frozen. It keeps the water a perfect temperature just above freezing. And you know, I was concerned when I put all this together that, my gosh, the electric bill is probably going to go way up, but honestly, I haven't noticed it. I would say, you know, if it's raised my electric bill, you know, $5 a month in the summer and maybe $10 a month in the winter running the heater, I wouldn't guess it was much more than that. But anyways, back to the cutting and fabricating on this 2 buckets here. I drilled a hole through the middle of the bottom of the bucket here to accommodate the pump, and then to adapt from the pond pump to the PVC riser going up to the top, where the water pumps out of the top of the pump here. Black polytube hose adapter, 1/2-inch PVC. Don't think you'll be able to make that out very well, but let me see if I can get you a little bit better view of that, see if you can see it. You can kind of make that out in there. It's one of those, you plug in the 1/2-inch PVC on the one side here, and black poly pipe or funny pipe or whatnot in the other side, and that's what connects to the pump. Okay, so obviously the system has worked beyond my wildest expectations. It's fabulous. Obviously the weak link here in this system has been the tent, and we're about to remedy that today. I'm going to pull this tent out of here and start setting up the new tent. The 2 things that we are going to do to beef up the tent is we're going to have a homemade rainfly that we're going to put together, and a tarp, a nice folded over thick piece of tarp as a pad under the tent. So it should, even though this tent that I found at a yard sale for $5 a couple weeks ago here is way higher quality than this tent was in the first place, it's also you know, got some design improvements big time over this old tent, and but it didn't come with a rainfly. So for $5 for the tent, I'm like, fine, I'll make my own rainfly. So let's get started. Well, we've got this area pretty well cleaned up here. The old tent taken down, swept and rinsed down the concrete here. And we're going to start building the system back up here from the ground up. So we're going to start with the tarp that I made. Just briefly show you how I did that. So what I have here is this old ratty tarp and some really good duct tape. My favorite 3M duct tape. It is about $10 a roll. And I laid this tarp out, doubled it over, then set the tent on top of it, and just kind of eyeballed a couple of inches border all the way around this to make my own pad here. And I think that this one foundation right here will hopefully make all the difference on how well this wears this time. So it was a big part of the failure of the last one here. Also, just the low quality of the tent didn't help either. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over. We'll do tape side down. Next layer is going to be the tent. So the next layer here is going to be the weight inside the tent. Is go ahead and put the pea gravel back in, spread that up nice and even. Well, what I decided to do is just push all that pea gravel up around the edges here, and it does a pretty good job of keeping this weighted down, which is the whole idea. We're doing this in lieu of being able to stake this into the ground the way you would normally a tent. So let's move on to the next step, which is going to be putting the finishing touches on this rainfly. I'll show you what I've done with it so far and how I'm going to finish that up. So what I've done with the rainfly here is I have this woven polypropylene material. Probably not going to last very long because this stuff disintegrates in the sunlight. What I like about it is that it's white, and that should help keep this a little bit cooler. And so what I did is measured out very similar to the way I did the pad to go under the tent here. Made this a couple of inches smaller all the way around and just laid this out and drew my line. And went around and, eyeballed a border around it, put in some carpet tape more or less just to hold my shape on this thing. And we're going to go one time around with the super heavy-duty 3M duct tape. And I have used this on several projects outdoors on tarps and stuff like that, and pretty impressed with this. It's like $10 a roll. It's a little darker gray, I haven't really done a side-by-side comparison with this and Gorilla Tape, but this has always worked really well for me, so I've just never made the move to start using the Gorilla Tape that everybody seems to like. This has not failed me. I've had tarps that I've used years ago that absolutely the whole tarp just disintegrated and turned into dust in the desert, dry and heat. And this tape was holding strong. It didn't turn to dust. It didn't dry out. The glue held strong. I was real impressed, and I've been a loyal user ever since. Next step is to install some grommets. So the worst part about this system is this, it's a cheap Harbor Freight grommet tool in grommets here. And I'm sure it was under $5-10. And the punch doesn't work very well. And the grommets are pretty lightweight, but for my purposes here, it's what I've got and it's what I'm going to use. You got to be a little bit patient, and what I'm going to do here is use the punch to mark my spot here primarily, and then go back around it with this X-Acto knife to actually make the hole. I can get a pretty big dent in the piece of oak I have underneath, and it still doesn't cut this material. This material is pretty tough stuff. So we're going to stick the grommet through the hole here. Put this little, rest that grommet on the base here. Put the cover. Last check. Use the tool to flatten that all down. And I'm going to take all that out of there and just give it a few more good whacks. Try to flatten it out. Okay, so 5 more to go, and we'll be back here, meet you back here in a minute. I got these El Cheapo bungee cords that I had to double up on to to bridge the gap here to hold the rainfly on. There were 3 different sizes in the package at the dollar store, so at $3 for bungee cords just to keep my cost low. At some point I'll have to replace those with some decent bungee cords. And so with the bungee cords holding the rainfly down, it allows easy access in case I need to get up here and reset the timer, do anything with the wiring up here. And I ended up upgrading the timer to a waterproof model that I actually had. I had bought this for another project and it was sitting on the shelf, and I thought, you know, let's go ahead and do this. So this is going to be nice. Everything's, the wires are all kept secure this way out of the rain and weather. Then I have it set back here where the extension cord plugs into the rest of the wires is up under the rainfly, and so that will be kept out of the weather, keep everything dry. And as the sun sets in the southwest desert sky, so ends another project. This is what it's all about, fresh, clean water for the dogs. The primary benefit of this system to me and the dogs is that it takes a lot less time and energy to keep a really consistently high quality of water for them. But the one remaining issue, when the temperature gets really hot, like on a hot day like today, and here comes the wind as usual, is that you know, the water temperature can get kind of high. The ground in front of me right now, because the clouds just came out, so the ground temperature here in front of me is 128 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature of the water, on the other hand, is 92, which sounds pretty hot, but you know, that's a few degrees cooler than my body temperature, and it's just not a very refreshing drink of water. So the one other little thing I like to do if I'm around during the day and it's hot like this is just throw in some ice. That actually helps lower the temperature 5 to 10 degrees. And when the dogs hear me throw some ice in their water, then do you want a cold drink of water, Neo? Oh, he loves it when I put ice in there. So anyway, that does help a little bit to cool down the water temperature. Just want to kind of monitor the temperature of the water with this as well in the reel. As I said, once it gets super hot like this. Thanks for watching, and I hope this was helpful for you. Please post any comments, questions, or suggestions in the comments section below. Lord willing, I will see you again here real soon. God bless.